Hi, this is David Heine, Aspect Art. Today we're in the Tropen Museum for their new show on batik. Now, batik is a kind of material that we're all more or less familiar with. It's something that is ancient and modern, both at the same time. It's a technique using wax and dye to make a multitude of design on material. Now, this exhibition goes into the history of it, the influence on the world that wears batik, and the European connection. So join us now at the Tropen Museum for batik. We're here today in the Tropen Museum for the beginning of a new exhibition on batik. Could you tell us a little about the inception of the exhibition and what it's about?
Well, the point we started with was, of course, the collection. The Tropen Museum owns a great collection of Indonesian textiles, and part of this collection is, of course, the collection of batik textiles. A few years ago, we bought a major collection. We already had a beautiful collection of batik, but then we bought an extra one, which made the collection complete, more or less complete. You're never complete, but this was a very good addition. And that was the moment we decided to make an exhibition on batik. So we took the collection as our starting point, and then I started to study and to go through all the 3,000 batik textiles. And then when you study them, then the subjects for your exhibition just come rolling out, and that's what happened.
Well, batik almost seems timeless. All of us have wore it at one point or another, or are certainly familiar with it. Could you give us a little history about batik and tell us its origins?
Well, batik is a resist dye technique, which is very old. You can find it in several places in the world, but only in Indonesia it came to this superb creations, this fineness of the work, and you see it in Africa and in Japan and all kinds of places, but only in Indonesia it became very important. It started in Indonesia already a long time ago. We don't know exactly where it came from, probably from China, and it was a kind of a rough technique first, and only in the beginning of the 17th century the chanting, the fine wax pen, was invented. And later on, when the fine cotton was imported from Holland, then the beautiful textiles as we have them here now in the exhibition were made.
Now, the method or the technique of creating batik, maybe you could give us a little on that. You said canting?
Chanting.
Chanting. So tell us a little about that.
Well, the chanting is a little wax pen. It has a copper vessel and a bamboo handle. And the lady who does the batik, she takes a little of the warm fluid wax, she puts it into the chanting, and then she draws her figures, her motifs on the cloth. The cloth most of the time is cotton, and then you have the motifs in wax on the cotton. They apply the wax at both sides, so you have a perfect drawing on both sides. And then when the first drawing is ready, you put the cloth into a dye bath. So when you take, for instance, a red dye bath, then the places where the wax is will not be dyed, so they stay white. When you remove the wax, then you have white figures on a red background. This procedure you can rehearse often, and then you have a multicolored textile at the end. So in a way it's very simple, but it is very complicated also, because when you look at the textiles you hardly can imagine how incredible difficult this must be.
Now, speaking of that, there are lots of different styles in batik. Could you tell us a little about the varying styles that have developed out of this? It seems timeless, but in fact, there must be a progression of styles or different forms that it's taken.
Yes, in the course of the 18th century, of course, Java was a trade route island. All the traders came along Java, and they settled. Sometimes the Chinese settled there. The Arab traders traded their materials to India, and then they came to Indonesia. And in the colonial time, then Europeans came, the Dutch mostly. So they all settled in Java, and they married two Javanese women. And then these various groups of, for instance, Indo-Chinese, the Indo-Arab, and the Indo-European people emerged. And Java became a kind of a multi-ethnic society. Because clothing everywhere in every society is a medium to show your identity. Also, these different groups showed their identity by means of batik. So these groups all developed their own style. We have a Chinese style, we have the Indo-European style, and the style influenced by the Islam, and of course the styles from Java itself, which were influenced by the Hindu Buddhism.
Now, I notice as I look around in the exhibition that there was a strong influence on the Dutch artists at the turn of the century. Could you tell us something about that?
Yeah, there was, at the end of the 19th century, there was the arts and crafts movement of William Morris in England. And this was a kind of protest against mass production of things used in the houses. So they, I'm sorry. They started to look around, the artists, they started to look around for new techniques they could use. And because the Netherlands were so much involved with Indonesia or with the Dutch East Indies in those days, the Dutch artists looked to the east, to Java. And they saw the batik technique as a great inspiration to make their own beautiful works of art. So we have, in this exhibition, we have quite some famous artists, beautiful pieces of them hanging here.
Now, in the exhibition, you've arranged it in a kind of particular way. Could you talk a little about this beautiful arrangement of your exhibition?
Yeah, when the museum started the discussion with Joa, the architect, I had my portfolio with me with all the beautiful pictures and so on of the textiles. And I told him about these four styles we just were talking about. And then he saw one of the famous motifs from the Javanese courts in central Java. And he saw it, and it consists of four shapes, and it's the kawung motif. And when he saw it, he said, "This is it. I make the exhibition in the shape of this kawung motif." And I think it came out greatly.
Now, in your exhibition, you've put a lot of historical photographs of varying uses of batik. I notice in most of them there's a male and a female, both wearing batik. Was there a difference in the style between what males and females wore, or how they wore them?
Well, there were definitely sarongs only female wore, but initially I don't think so. There was a difference. For instance, in central Java, men and women were the same, but on the north coast I think it's different. And also I think men, like the Indo-European men, and sometimes even the Chinese, they were also the chelana, and these were the trousers made out of a batik. So they didn't wear it as a sarong or a kain panjang, but as trousers made out of a batik cloth.
Now, oftentimes, certain kinds of... we lived in India for a period of time, and a certain group, the Muslims, wore a certain kind of mundu, they called them there, and the Hindus wore another one. Yeah. They were secular, but at the same time had religious connotations. Was this at all true in Java?
I think so, yes. Definitely, of course, the Javanese batik, they all have motifs on it which refer to Hindu-Buddhist ideas, to the cosmos, to the harmony in life, harmony in everything. And also the Chinese, they have lots of motifs on their batiks, like the bat, which is like bringing the phoenix, the bird, which only shows up when you need luck, and all kinds of things. So there are a lot of religious connotations on the batiks, yes.
And in the exhibition I saw that in the European influence that they did something to do, it looked like fairy tales or something. What was that about?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing happening around 1860 when in the European batik entrepreneurs, they took the batik technique as a medium to express all kinds of ideas. They took fairy tales as their inspiration, or even epics from from India. They had the Lombok War. We have so many of those batiks, so I thought I make a separate part of the exhibition because this is so interesting. These women found out how to express their feelings about things, about Holland, about things happening politically, and so on. And because I think this is so interesting, I ordered for this exhibition to continue this tradition of having batiks with all kinds of inscriptions. I ordered a batik last September in Cirebon, and they made there a batik with the title of the exhibition on it. So we have now all these batiks with all kinds of titles and things, and we also have one from 2001.
Now, batik has spread throughout the world. In fact, one of your sections in the exhibition indicates all the places it went. It even went as far as Africa. Now, is there a variation in style and color from country to country, or do they follow a general pattern?
No, there is no similarity almost at all. They are extremely different all. You immediately, when you know a little bit about, you immediately see when it is a batik from Africa, because they are so completely different, or from Japan, or no, you can see it immediately.
In the exhibition, there's a multitude of different colors. Are colors important? And I know that in 17th century Holland, for example, dyeing was an art, or considered such, and there were even people, the syndics, that would judge how well it had been dyed. Was that a problem? Was color and dyeing a problem with batik?
Well, when you talk about dyeing and batik, then you have to make a distinction between the batiks of Central Java and the batiks made at the north coast of Java, because these two areas are made completely different batiks. In Central Java, they mostly used natural dyes like Mengkudu red and indigo blue. So you have from Central Java the blue and dark red, brown. And the soga brown, of course. The soga brown, I mean, in Central Java. At the north coast, you have much more brighter colors. Like, I made a mistake, like the Mengkudu red, and also the blue, of course. But for instance, these Indo-European batik entrepreneurs, they experimented a lot. And for instance, one of the most famous batik entrepreneurs, Carolina van Frankemont, she was able to develop a color-fast, beautiful green, and it was quite new in those days. And then at the end of the 19th century, then they started to use also the synthetic dyes, and then everything changed. But I think they are going back again a little bit. I was there in January and September, and they start using the natural dyes again.
Well, today is the beginning of the exhibition. How long will the exhibition be here, and could you tell us a little about when the people could come and see it, and how long it'll be here?
Well, the exhibition is open for the public from April 11th until October 14th, and we open every morning at 10 o'clock. We close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, also in the weekend, so it's every day the same. And I would like to tell also that we have a workshop on Saturdays and Sundays, so people can come here and have the chanting, take the chanting themselves and try it. And that's a wonderful idea, because then you see how difficult it is, and how wonderful it is what these batik ladies accomplished in their batiks.
Lady, thank you very much. It's a stunning exhibition, and I like the music a lot too. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Jova, today we're in the Tropen Museum. It's the opening of a big Batik exhibition. Tell us about the design.
Well, it was very difficult actually to make a design in this big light hall, but it is also very challenging to do so. And we were using one of the patterns as the inspiration for the floor plan of the exhibition. It was also very important to avoid a lot of light which is coming into the light hall. So there was a special construction made which we can use also in the future so that we eliminate too much daylight. The other thing was that, of course, the lighting was very tricky. As these textiles are very sensitive, we had to use glass fiber optics. And with this new way of lighting, we could create a very equal and very natural light on all the textiles, which are huge also in measurements. And as you look at them, you will also see that we have the light coming from the top, and we have them also coming from downneath, because you have to illuminate these textiles from both sides then, because it doesn't reach too far. So you have to be very careful with it.
Now, I think that with the fiber optic that you're using, it's also economical. Could you tell us a little why that is?
Yes, the fiber optics, as they say also, they are made of fiber optics. And they have a very, very big speed for the light, which is running through this fiber optic. And so we have one light source where we have the bulb, and that is, let's say, for about 20 to 25, sometimes more outlets. We have just one light source, so you have very little energy for maximum lighting effect.
Well, Jova, it's a beautiful exhibition, and
I
wish you the best of success. Seems like you've got a lot of nice new innovations in this one.
Yes, absolutely. It is also not the first exhibition in the Tropen Museum that I made. The first one was Indigo, which was a very big success, and I hope very much that this exhibition will be, again, a big success.
I'm sure it will. Thanks.
Thank you, too.
Now, a lot of people, when they come to an exhibition, the better the exhibition is designed and laid out, the less they notice it. But this particular one, which is well designed and well received, has gotten a lot of people really notice it. Now, what were some of the special considerations for this exhibition?
The special consideration is that you have, at least this is what I try to achieve, is that people feel that they are in another environment. They are also in the church because there is a dialogue between the church and the Islam. That's why I was using this lattice work, so that you have absolute transparency between what you are looking at and where you are, so that you are all the time conscious of it, what you are doing. So I try with all my exhibitions, especially for the Nieuwe Kerk, where they are doing different cultures and different religions, that people feel that they have been there. So the environment and the colors and also the spatial design is very important.
Now, when we talked with John Vrieze, the curator here, he pointed out that it was specifically designed to go from, as you come into the garden here, and then you go from the pilgrimage and so on and so forth. When you do a design, do you work with a curator to come up with the concept, or how does that operate?
Well, in this case with John Vrieze, we made a lot of exhibitions together, Catharina the Great, together with the Hermitage, the Black Pharaohs. We did a lot of exhibitions together, and it is wonderful working with him, as he always has a certain dream and he is always laughing. And very often I ask him, well, John, do you really want to have a garden with fountains? And he said, absolutely, for this show. And we have to have birds and we have to have all this. And I said, is it real? And he said, yes, it's real. You are going to do it for me. And that is very nice to do it. So we were, especially for this exhibition, having a walk. So we had a warming up for this introduction space where we are standing in front, so that people get the masterpieces. And when you are walking through the exhibition, you are changing all the way the atmosphere of the exhibition by walking, as you said, from the mosque to the inscriptions, to the palace, to the gardens of the paradise, and to the jewelry, I mean, which is the end of the exhibition. You discuss it, of course, together, and only at the moment when it is already done, then people realize what was it all about.
For instance, the exhibition, the Islam exhibition, it's an old idea which we had. We thought it was important that in Dutch society people become a little bit more aware of the richness of Islamic culture. It was something, by the way, which our own curiosity as to that culture is also very great. So we thought it was a nice idea to delve into that, realizing and thinking of and hoping that our public would be interested in that in such a subject as well. And that idea was born perhaps 5, 6, 7 years ago. We toyed with that idea, and gradually it builds up. We invited Professor Petrovsky from the Hermitage to be our guest curator. And the exhibition grows and grows and grows. And at a certain stage, it's also, you have the collection, but it's, of course, extremely important that the collection, what you present, is for the ideas of what you want to present, but also the objects, that you take up contact with an exhibition designer to sort of work that out together, because it's something which the museum, the curator, the person who's putting the exhibition together, does together with the designer. Those are two various tasks which are intricately involved with each other.
Now, you're working in a very special area, because you're working in a 17th century Dutch Calvinist church that is very prominent here, and you're presenting an Islamic exhibition. Was this a problem, and how did you decide to overcome or integrate those two separate elements?
Well, it's one of the aspects of the Nieuwe Kerk. It is indeed the 17th century building. It's an architecture which is there. I mean, that is really, you have to respect that architecture. And from the very beginning, since we made exhibitions here, we've tried to let that architecture respect it and let it be one of the prominent features of the way everything is presented here. Our experience is that the best way of presenting exhibitions is to have the design of the exhibition be in dialogue with the architecture. So not to sort of deny the beauty of the building, however present that building is, however, the Gothic architecture you cannot think of away, but